Welcome back, Knuckleheads. I am Lupine Fiasco, and this is Daily FaB Gameplay. For anyone who's new to the channel, welcome to the jungle. What we do here is review replays of games that I played on the Talishar client days or weeks ago, after enough time has passed, that I lose my bias and can more objectively judge the quality of my play. I will talk through turn cycles and give my thoughts on the line I would take now, compared to the line I took then at the time of recording. We either reinforce good play patterns or identify areas for improvement for the purpose of tightening and improving our gameplay in the future to take down paper events like the upcoming Skirmish and ProQuest season, and, most importantly, walk away with that shiny cardboard. If you'd like to check out the list I'm playing here or try it for yourself on Talishar, there is a FaB deck link in the video description below. While you're down there, if you haven't already done so, please consider a YouTube subscription. It is the best free way to support me and to make sure that you see daily FaB gameplay in your video feed 5 days a week. The best paid way to support me is through Patreon, and a Patreon link is also in the video description. A Patreon subscription will get you access to the DFG Discord and the shiny cardboard Talishar card back. At higher tiers, your name will appear in every DFG video, and you could receive bonus DFG content every week. Daily FaB gameplay will always be free 5 days a week, so those who can afford to patronize me, I truly appreciate it. I also now am on X, and if you would like to see memes, inane comments, and the occasional self-promotion, head on over to X and follow Lupine Fiasco. Now, without further ado, let's talk about our sideboard and about our game plan. Winning the die roll against Azalea is always a little spooky. We're going to choose to go first, but it can backfire. We go first because we get an extra turn of Azalea not having an arsenal, and what we're looking to do is set up might or agility. Our best line on turn 0 is draw and discard Agile Windup to make might and agility and then pass the turn so that Azalea doesn't get to filter cards from her hand. The second best line is to pulping so that we make a might and push some damage through Azalea's defense, and our third best line is to just pass the turn. The Azalea Armory deck came out recently. Azaleas and Riptides are experimenting with the new pieces, so I can't guarantee that this is the best game. Certainly not the closest game I've ever played, but Azalea is using some of the new tech, and I'm excited to kind of show off what that might look like, at least in the early days. Our Azalea plan has us bringing in No Fears, and we are boarding out our yellow Bear Fangs. Red Bear Fangs are staying in. It's kind of a liability because it doesn't block, and sometimes we do want to be able to block Azalea's big dominated on-hit arrows. And every once in a while you draw your Bear Fangs and it just doesn't really line up with anything that you want to do under the restrictions that Azalea is placing you under. But the only clean substitution for it would be Cast Bones, Weakest Link, or Clash of Might Yellow. And none of those are really super impactful in this matchup. Cast Bones is just a little slow, very susceptible to disruption. If you play your Cast Bones, you make your mights and your agilities, and Azalea hits you with Immobilizing Shot or Red in the Ledger, you're kind of out of luck as far as your next turn. Weakest Link has exactly one hit in Ranger, which is Rain Razors, and is kind of just not a great card. Generic doesn't work with Bloodrush Bellow. Clash of Might Yellow does have a good effect when we block with it, but if we only get to do one thing in a turn, sometimes that one thing is Clash of Might Yellow, which feels really bad. That explains the sideboarding decisions. We're going to see a good No Fear in this game, but the idea behind No Fear is using it to dodge the discard effect of Codex of Frailty, Judge, Jury, Executioner, and prevent a little damage, and get to keep cards during your next turn. Maybe ruin Azalea's attempt to take tempo, prevent some damage, and then keep tempo on your next turn. We are really looking to race. We don't want to block as much as possible. We're trying to convert 4-card hands. If you have a choice between blocking 3 damage or dealing 3 damage, I have found that it is better to deal 3 damage. You might think that keeping your life total fairly healthy to prevent a big dominated arrow from killing you is the smarter play, and I've made that mistake myself, but have found over the course of recent Azalea games that you are better off dealing more damage faster than she can and put her in a position where she needs to start blocking, because her big impactful on hits, those laces, read the glide path, seek and destroy, they block for 2 and they pump for 3. So if you can force Azalea to start blocking with those pumps, then she will be pushing less damage, her dominated arrows won't hit as hard, and you actually are providing a better defense by having a better offense. So I'm going to submit the deck and we'll see what exactly that looks like in practice. Excuse manual mode here. Been playing around with Aurora in practice. This hand is absolutely terrible. We have no go again. We have no way to generate might. The one thing we can do with this hand is try to push some damage. If we roll Scab Skins and get 2 or 3 action points, we can play Pack Hunt, intimidate a card out of Azalea's hand, and then play Swing Big. And if somehow Azalea managed to keep 3 blocks after the Pack Hunt, she's blocking 9 to our 15 damage, to our 14 damage, and we at least do something on turn 0. But it starts with rolling Scabs. If we get 1 action point, then I would probably pitch Smash Instinct to play Pack Hunt, and we're hoping that maybe we hit, a 3 block from Azalea's hand, and she has 2 blocks and a Rain Razors and ends up taking some damage. But overall, this is not a good opening hand, and in fact, we do roll a 1 on the Scab, so we don't even have the opportunity to maybe luck into some damage. As much as we really don't want to let Azalea filter, we also don't want this hand. We are willing to take that trade of throwing a Pack Hunt and letting Azalea filter some cards if it means maybe drawing go again for our next turn. But regardless of any of this, we rolled a 1, so we're just going to Arsenal a Swing Big and see what happens. Draw a Beast Within, which is also a very bad card to have. We'll see how Azalea can take advantage of full tempo. Just looking at her equipment, these are the new armory deck pieces. Her arm piece is Bullseye Bracers, but instead of giving an arrow +1, it gives it an aim counter. Her boots are Snapdragon Scalers that only work on arrows with aim counters, but they do both block 1, so Azalea has a little more tankiness going into this game. Nog finding red in the ledger, that's totally fine. We were not going to be able to do anything with this hand anyway. We can't play multiple attacks because we don't have anything that generates action points. So honestly, this is one of the best outcomes for us. Azalea is not going to have an arsenal to play with. The red in the ledger does not impact our turn at all, unless we wanted to roll Scabs, which probably don't really want to do. So we'll block this with Smash Instinct, cover 3 of the incoming damage and take 5. On our turn, we can attack with Swing Big and then Arsenal Pack Hunt. The reason I want to keep a Pack Hunt rather than a Swing Big is that Pack Hunt plays a lot better with Agility, and we have yet to draw into an Agile windup. If we can set up an Agility, then Pack Hunt at the start of a Blood Rush turn, or even just a regular 6/3/6 turn, is going to be really strong. We're not going to use any armor here. We could block with Wrecker Romp and Apex Bonebreaker, but we really want to save the armor for meaningful on hits. And again, that red in the ledger just isn't meaningful. We don't need the ability to do more than one thing on our turn. Azalea going to cash in the armor really early. It's fine with me. We draw into just some more bad cards. 2 blocks, another blue. We are getting Codexed here. Azalea picks up red in the ledger. We thankfully don't need to discard, although with our Beast Within, maybe it would have been better if we could have. And Azalea is going to turn that red in the ledger into Barbed Undertow. So at least from Azalea's perspective, I think she would have been better off playing the Lace and not giving Barb Undertow an aim counter. I understand that she wants to slow us down, but we have a ton of armor and a lot of the cards in our deck block for 3. So 5 Dominate really does not seem that impactful. That said, we do need to block this. We cannot just let this hit. We very likely lose the ability to pitch blues, and if we lose the ability to pitch blues, then our turn is very bad. So we are going to block this. We want to save that pack hunt in our arsenal to play with the Agile Windup that we just drew. So what I would like to do on my turn is discard Agile Windup to make Might and Agility, and then play one of the cards in my hand, and the best attacking card in my hand is Beast Within. It speaks to the low quality of this hand, but that means that I can block with Smash Instinct, I can pitch Mighty Windup to play Beast Within, and I can discard Agile Windup to make Might and Agility. And the reason we would block with Smash Instinct instead of something like a Mighty Windup is that it blocks 3 instead of 2. So we give Smash Instinct and our Savage Sash to cover 5, and then we convert these 3 cards in our hand to 6 damage plus Might and Agility. Good to get your Savage Sash block out of the way early so that you aren't missing those 2 points of value if you decide to fire off a Blood Rush, Savage Sash turn, or really just your hand lines up for Savage Sash. Also good to get it out of the way before your opponent plays a Drill Shot so that you don't have to worry about blocking a Drill Shot with Savage Sash and then getting blown out by Rain Razors. The hand we draw into is really pretty suboptimal here, 2 yellows and 2 reds. But we have the agility, so we have playable things to do. You know, we could pitch Wild Ride and play Pack Hunt, pitch Beast Within, play Bear Fangs. We could pitch Wild Ride to play Bear Fangs and hope to discard the Beast Within. At this point, we are just seeing what Azalea has coming at us, and it's 8 Power, Dominate, Blood Rot, and Seek and Destroy effect. We couldn't stop this very easily, even if we wanted to. We'd have to give 3 pieces of armor and a card from hand, so we're going to take the damage. And thankfully, this Infecting Shot is just damage. We get some disruption on the back end when we don't get to Arsenal a card, but we aren't really expecting to Arsenal a card anyway. I am thinking, looking at this hand, we can convert 5 cards. So I do want to just take 8 here and effectively go to 25. But on my turn, I get to play 5 cards, and we'll see what those 5 cards look like. We're definitely not blocking with Beast Within, because we are going to have at least one opportunity to draw and discard, and we want the Beast Within around to be able to do that. So our question to start this turn is, are we breaking Savage Sash? We want to open the turn with Bear Fangs to take advantage of our agility. We could open with Pack Hunt if we wanted to utilize that Intimidate, like I've been saying. Azalea is at 34 and is not a hero that wants to do much blocking anyway. So intimidating a card out of her hand and not turning on our Mandible Claw in the process is a pretty bad line. We would have to pitch our Beast Within to play the Pack Hunt, then pitch our Wild Ride to play Bear Fangs, and that's kind of the turn. Whereas if we open with Bear Fangs and pitch our Wild Ride, now our Claw is online. If we play Bear Fangs, pitch Wild Ride, and let's say turn our red Bear Fangs into a different red, or even turn our Beast Within into 2 reds, our turn is kind of not good. We would really like a blue to keep this turn going, and we don't know that we're going to find a blue. So what we can do instead is break Savage Sash, and breaking Savage Sash lets us pitch Wild Ride to play Bear Fangs. We float a resource. Now, worst case, we just pitch Beast Within to attack with Mandible Claw and then get to play a Bear Fangs. But if the Beast Within hits and we get an extra red, we're looking like we can maybe do a little bit more with this turn. Unfortunately, we cannot open with Wild Ride. We would lose our agility bonus that we want to put on a Bear Fangs. We could maybe think about pitching a Bear Fangs to play the Pack Hunt, so that we are guaranteed to keep our Wild Ride after the draw discard. but pitching reds to play reds is really not where I want to be. I want to pitch yellows to play reds. So we are going to open with Bare Fangs pitching Wild Ride after we break Sash, and we are hoping that we're going to get to discard this Beast Within. We don't discard the Beast Within, but we do draw another Wild Ride. So really getting paid off for pitching the first one. We get to follow the Bare Fangs with Wild Ride, and we're hoping to discard this Beast Within, which we do. Unfortunately, we do lose a Blood Rush Bellow to the Beast Within. So we lose a point of life, and we also draw into a second Blood Rush, which we cannot play. So kind of unfortunate, really. Beast Within hitting is always good, but in this case, we just would have preferred something else. We do get to turn the Blood Rush into a Mandible Claw, and then turn our blue into Pack Hunt. So we are getting to utilize our entire hand. We're not losing anything to the Seek and Destroy. We are a resource short of being able to pay for Blood Rot. So overall, it was a really good turn, but it could have been better. Certainly could have been worse. Drawing the Wild Ride there was extremely lucky. What we're looking to do here, if we can, is block with one of these two blues, play E-Strike for 8, and then arsenal a No Fear. We'd really love for No Fear to just sit in our arsenal. Here, Line It Up is bad Deadeye. It is just 1 for 3. Azalea breaks Gloves to load an arrow. I'm just checking Line It Up to make sure there's no retroactive effect. Line It Up is just +3. We see a Judge, Jury, Executioner with a Seek and Destroy. Pretty nasty combination of effects there. But this No Fear is going to bail us out of the situation. We get attacked with JJE. This is 11 with no Dominate, but an aim counter. So we could throw our entire hand in front of the JJE and prevent 11. We could throw 9 plus Scab Skins in front of it and arsenal No Fear. We're at 23. We can definitely afford to give some life, and what I would like to do with this hand is attack with it. Like I was saying, if you have a choice between preventing damage or dealing damage against Azalea, you usually want to be dealing damage. So we can, at minimum, block with Scabs. I like blocking with Scabs here. Let's start using our armor. We aren't preventing an on-hit, but we are making sure that we're getting the most value out of our armor. We don't want to die with armor still on the table. So I think blocking with Scabs here is fine. I don't need to block with Bonebreaker or Flesh Bag. I can use No Fear in combination with the Scab Skins, and then I could banish 3 cards from my hand. I'm preventing 5 damage. Scabs total 7 prevention. We take 4 and go to 19. We could also block with Pack Call, see what the top of our deck is, make sure we're going to draw an attack. So block with Pack Call, Scabs for a total of 5, and then No Fear for a total of 4, which makes 9. We take 2 from the JJE. So our question really is, do we block with Pack Call or do we keep Pack Call? Because if we keep E-Strike and 2 blues, we get to E-Strike Go again Mandible Claw. We're getting in an extra point of damage, and we're taking 2 extra points of damage to do it. That is a bad mathematical equation, right? If we could press a button at the start of the game that said, I take 2, you take 1, it's a terrible button to press. But when we're at 23 and our opponent's at 10, it's actually a very good button to press, especially if we need to put pressure on our opponent. So, this is all to say that I am going to block with Scab Skins and No Fear. No Fear will banish these 3 cards from my hand. I am choosing to turn Pack Call into Mandible Claw rather than into 3 health. And again, with the understanding that the numbers do not support that decision, I have taken more damage than this Pack Call will equal, because I could always just E-Strike for 8. Instead, I'm E-striking for 6 plus Mandible Claw. But I am doing it intentionally. Azalea is already at much lower health than I am. This puts her into a position where a pulping just kills her. I have plenty of armor left. I have the life lead to be able to make that play. At this point, Azalea is just doing Azalea things. She's been punished a couple of turns now for not having Spring Tunic available, which is just really nice for me. Here we have Azalea throwing a ton of buffs onto this Infecting Shot, which now represents 16 points of damage. We're talking 14 from the Infecting Shot plus 2 from the Blood Rot, which if I don't kill Azalea and I don't pay for the Blood Rot, puts me to 3, which is very killable by a Dominated Arrow. So do we want to block this? We have a Wild Ride, we have a blue to pay for it. If we discarded what we draw from the Wild Ride, we get to send 6/3/6, which is enough to kill Azalea. My consideration for blocking is that I can block with CNC Bonebreaker, prevent 5, so essentially end my turn at 8 rather than 3. I make a Might, which says that Azalea can't just give me 2 arrows from hand to block the Wild Ride. She has to give me equipment as well. And if I discard the card I draw, I get to follow Wild Ride with Run Roughshod. If this Run Roughshod was any other blue, then I am probably not blocking this Infecting Shot, or maybe I'll block it with Bonebreaker just to start getting my armor value. But because I have the Run Roughshod in hand, I have a 50% to Wild Ride Run Roughshod, which completely strips Azalea's hand. And at minimum, I always get to follow Wild Ride with Mandible Claw. So I am going to block this with Bonebreaker CNC. I feel like I'm in a strong enough position after the Wild Ride that I can break the rule of don't ever block Azalea and instead get some value from my armor, as well as have a 50% to completely strip Azalea's hand with Run Roughshod follow-up to Wild Ride. Not meant to be. We do discard the Run Roughshod, but we are still going to get 3 cards from Azalea, and now we have a Mandible Claw follow-up. Unfortunately, we're frail, so Azalea can put armor in front of the claw. She doesn't need to block from hand. Even so, we're at 8 to her 1. She has no armor left, so her only 1-card play is going to be Codex of Frailty. And here is where I'm not sure how the Azalea aim counter thing should be working. I don't know if this is how Azalea built the deck. I don't know if she has just been unlucky this entire game. Azalea has not put any 0-cost arrows into her discard. So there is no Drill Shot, there's no Bolton Shot, there's no Searing Shot. There is no follow-up to this Codex. She takes an Infecting Shot and just passes the turn. And what that does for me is say, I was not in danger of dying anyway. I'm at 8 and I have 4 points of armor, so effectively I'm at 12. There's no 0-cost arrow in Azalea's deck that kills me. But what this says is, I get to turn the worst card in my hand into the best card in my graveyard. And because I am going to pitch Agile Windup to play Bloodrush Bellow, it doesn't matter which red I discard. What matters is the red I grab. And the red I grab is going to be Wild Ride, so that I have a turn extender after I play my Blood Rush. This is me checking because I had thought that Barbed Undertow cost 0. No, apparently it does in fact cost 1. Does not seem great, honestly. Playing as Wild Ride, it really doesn't matter if we discard Pulping or Clash of Might, because we're going to discard the other one to the Blood Rush, so they both go to the graveyard anyway. It's very wild that Azalea did not have a 0-cost arrow, which is where I'm like, did she just not play them? Blood Rush draws us 2 reds. Unfortunate, however, we do get to play Wild Ride from Arsenal and try to turn one of these reds into a blue, which we are able to do. So we do get to follow this Wild Ride with Command and Conquer for 6, which will be enough to win the game. Like I said, not a particularly close game. Certainly not the closest Azalea game I've ever shown on the channel, but I did want to at least show off the new equipment, kind of how that might be playing. I've read a lot on Twitter, I think correctly, that Armory Deck Azalea is kind of Armory Deck Riptide, and I do have a Riptide game for you tomorrow or Wednesday, one of the two, where we see this armor being used to much better effect. But really show off the new equipment. It is something to be aware of going into Rosetta. Show off how No Fear is working. I was down on No Fear at the start of putting it back into my deck when I posted last week's deck tech. It was kind of iffy on it. At this point, I'm much higher on it. It does feel like the ceiling of No Fear is insane. Even the kind of mid uses of it are very good. Like, we used it to great effect in this game. We got to dodge Judge, Jury, Executioner and turn what would have been a just full block into 9 damage. The floor of No Fear is very bad. The floor of No Fear says you discard it to a Wild Ride and your turn ends, or you have it and Blood Rush Bellow in your hand, and you're kind of like, I don't know what to do with this, or you draw it from a Blood Rush and you wish it was an attack. But I think most of the time No Fear is worth including in your sideboard for these matchups. Azalea, Assassin, you could think about it for Riptide, Guardian. So I'm much higher on the card, and I wanted to show it off in this game, just like I showed it off last week against New. So I hope you learned something from this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If so, be sure to take that like button to Pound Town. My comments are always open for any questions or feedback. If you haven't already done so, please consider a YouTube subscription. It's free, it helps me out a lot. I have a Patreon, I have a Twitter. Links to those socials are in the video description below. Catch me next time on Daily FaB Gameplay, and until then, take care.